Hey guys, it is 9 a.m. on December 10th, 2020. I'm gonna start doing I don't know if you guys have been on the Twitch live stream when I go on. What I'm looking for is like ideas during the day that I see. I'm not a big trader of early market action. I think there's a lot of volatility in the morning, unless I have an idea of like a bracket trade with a defined stop on something that's very volatile that I expect to spike open and then drop precipitously as sellers line up. So I'm kind of more focused on intraday movements, like stocks that stick out. Like yesterday, Quantumscape, which I like fundamentally within the EV space. There's only a few that I really like, and I think Tesla obviously is the leader. And as the leader starts to pull back, you're going to see some of these other ones pull back too. But I think the winners are going to start to outperform over long term here. And Quantumscape was one yesterday that I thought was really interesting. And the things that I'm looking for, and I'm not holding these overnight. And if I do, they're very small positions. But yesterday, when you look at 1 minute charts on Quantumscape, had a huge move in the morning. Look at this move, like 22 points within, 30-minute time frame. By 10 o'clock, this went from 65 to 87. So, yeah, these are great if you can catch those moves. But if I'm not playing these, small and there's really no technical analysis that can cover the movements that you're seeing in the market. Look at the GLSI yesterday. It moved from $5 to 155. And the market really was, psychology never changes, human psychology, fear and greed. But I think really greed has taken over in the last few years. In fact, you have a whole new group of participants in the market that seem to be driving the market here too. And it's emboldened recently when you see things like COVID and the market bounces back again. The more you see these bounce backs in the market, I think the more cocky and greedy the traders get. They start to lose any fear. And a lot of stuff's moving just because it's moving. All it takes is a concept and PR. And then you're getting movement in stock prices. And once you get movement based on those two things, you're going to get people piling on, and then it creates a snowball effect. So, you look at stocks like QS yesterday, which has been strong, and I didn't catch this move, but I started watching this, and I noticed that S&P was breaking the lower lows, and this just refused to break to a lower low. And so I said, right around here, I'm going to start watching it. And what I'm looking for is shape change on volume and MACD. So this one was textbook. It came back down here, had a big washout. I like to see that big volume drop because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. It means that a lot of the weak hands are out, which relieves the overhead resistance. So right in here, it started to change shape because normally if you have these little bounces, you should have had a continuation move. Oops, you should have had a continuation move down there, and you didn't. It wouldn't break to the low. S&P had already broken lower, and this refused to break lower, and then it changed shape right in this little pivot area here. And not only did it change shape, but it also broke to the positive on the MACD for the first time since this little breakdown in here. You're negative, you're negative, you're negative. You can't get above. Here you break positive. You do it on a big volume, a higher volume pop there, and then you really pop on volume here. The highest buy volume since the opening of the trading. So now you're creating a new channel, and you have to watch patterns develop there too. Then you can kind of create a channel within a channel, which would be more of a momentum channel where you start to get up into this tighter area and things start to tighten. This last move there, I'd already sold at 60 or at 78.40, I believe, or 78.30, and then the last move I left some money on the table, and I was kind of shocked to see it get above there. But look at the big volume candles, and that can also, show a topping in the particular stock that you're trading. You had a little bit of bearish divergence on the RSI too, with a higher price point, but not as strong on the RSI. So yeah, that's the kind of trades that I'm looking for, and then you see a little bit of the breakdown here, back test. These are 1 minute charts, and then it pulls back again. So I will be watching this one today. Tesla's probably under 575. That's maybe why this is going lower. Yeah. Tesla at 573. Tesla's got some support around the 573s, 572 area. Had a brief pull through there, but the energy snapped it back up. This looks like it could go lower just on the 1 year daily. I mean, it looks like it's got a lot of room to the downside, right? I mean, we've seen areas of consolidation and wedges break, and then we pop again, and then you can kind of see these little areas of breaking out here across this descending top line, and then you pop up again. I have a little marker in there too for 575, but can Tesla go a lot lower? Technically, yeah, it really could, but this is one of the stronger concepts. Like we talk about concepts, this one is one of the stronger ones. Look how far away the 200-day moving average this thing is. It's almost double above its 200-day moving average. It's crazy. So yeah, we could certainly pull back to the 20 and get it into the 560s, 550s for sure. And that's probably, causing stuff like NEO and Quantumscape to drop. Obviously today's Airbnb IPO. This one I talked about was topping out in the 52s a few days ago, and then look at one of my videos. I said it looks like we're in a topping formation, and what I'm using is I'm using Fibonacci retracements from breakdown pivot candles where I think are important. And one of the areas that I thought was important was 52. Let me remove this one here because this is the one I've been using. The 52 area was a really important breakdown because it was the last candle before we broke the uptrend. So the top of that candle was important to me, and that's where I really saw resistance at. And then we bounce back up here. These lines go further back, and now we're kind of slowly drifting lower and lower. And if you pull out that tail there, we're probably getting close to some sort of a bounce again in NEO. I'm sure the whole EV space is under pressure here. But longer term, when it was up in the high 50s, I said it looks like it's forming a top. So the one stock I want to talk about today, and then I'll probably go back on Twitch live later when I see some stuff that's interesting, is an IPO. And it's not, I think the idea that that Airbnb is going to run the show today almost makes it interesting for the stock that we are looking at, which would be wow, Amazon really dropped. I've been buying little dips on Amazon here recently, but holy moly, Amazon's definitely down 3,076. That's right near a longer term support level. There's a whole, sorry, I'm looking at my phone. There's a whole layer of support on Amazon, which now the daily broke the wedge, and now you're looking for a horizontal support on Amazon. And I'm trying to buy a little, I can take that out for now, but I'm trying to buy little small pieces, 10, 20, 30 shares at a time. But yeah, we kind of broke this wedge on Amazon from the 20-day pop breakout. It kind of looks something like this. That line might not be accurate. And then here's the last candle before the breakdown. And this is kind of the wedge, I guess, we're looking at in a way. It actually could be higher, but there's another wedge that's even tighter within this area here. And unfortunately, we're retesting the lower area on Amazon, breaking the 20 and the 50, which isn't good. We do have no, do we? Yeah, we have a little bit of a 20-50 bounce. We tried to get above the 50 with the 20, we couldn't. This is the stuff that I'm looking at. This 20-50 crossover here is what we don't want to see. And even with the price points going quite a bit higher, the 20 still wasn't able to bend back above the 50, as you can kind of see in here. And that means that we're getting a little bit more selling pressure here on expanding volume too, with the MACD kind of trying to figure out which way it wants to go. We do have a touch here, so it's going to take some strong buying energy to get Amazon out of this little funk that it's in. But for longer term, we have seen some breakdowns before that got sharp moves to the upside. This one here, obviously in earnings, was a sharp move down, hitting the bottom part of the wedge. See my candle, my lines aren't perfect. And then that fired right back to the upside. We could certainly see that within this tightening wedge coming up on earnings. It looks like support is around 363 if we get down there today. And then it could fire back up, breaking the wedge to the upside again, because I do like Amazon longer term. I think it's a no-brainer. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about today really quick, and I'm kind of getting off topic here, is the IPOs. And obviously, Airbnb will be the focus. Yesterday, you had AI, which is C3 AI, artificial intelligence, which to me almost looks like it's going to create one of those weird patterns like CVAC, where here was the day yesterday. 115 was the high, and it really put in a big red wick at 115. You got to figure there's a lot of guys in this thing in the 40s that just basically doubled their money, and of course they're going to sell. And as soon as those sellers move out of the way, if the public likes the concept and the theory behind the company, I don't think anybody's looking at spreadsheets and fundamentals anymore. It seems to be more looking at concept of growth and concepts like things like electric cars and artificial intelligence. So if the concept is positive and the market's not dropping dramatically, I think you're going to see strength. Although the market does look overbought here and it looks like it could pull back in. I've been talking about that for a few days now. Even UVXY on the volatility was kind of basing and refusing to budge much more to the downside. Not that you go out and buy it and chase it. But anyway, my theory is that this will be a strong stock, AI, over the long term here. In fact, you could look at the chart formation in CVAC, one we liked a while ago, and look at this 1 year chart. And this looked sloppy. See, I'm using Fibonacci's for everything right now. This looked really sloppy. You got an opening at 36. It goes all the way up to 84. Unbelievable. And then drifts lower. And then it starts to curl back up and hits 151. I mean, if you're just in this from this time frame, you're like, this isn't looking too good. I'll pull this back down again. You're like, what's going on here? It had a high of 83, and now we're back down to 45, and now it's 150. So, huge breakout. Not that the 200-day moving average is relevant. The stock that hasn't even traded for 200 days, but CVAC was one of those concept stocks we're talking about. And the one that I'm interested in today, finally getting to it, is a vertical farming company. Airbnb obviously is going to be the focus. Offer price 68. Who knows? Probably opens up at $130. But HYFM, Hydro Farm, HYFM, offer price $20. Who knows? I could open up in the 30s, 35s. But get a piece of that, in my opinion, whether it's you scale in small, 5, 10 shares at a time, whatever, because I think HYFM could be really interesting. So put yourself an alert for HYFM. I do alerts above $5. Obviously, we know it's going to open well above that. It just alerts me when the stock opens. HYFM. Let's look at that one today on top of Airbnb, because when you look at stuff like Dash with this ridiculous valuation, I think this thing is going to continue to pull back in for a few days here. I mean, come on. Who's buying this at $195 a share? I think this will stair step lower, maybe into the 140s, 130s. Who knows? I may be wrong because, once again, concepts rule over fundamentals. So keep that in mind. But HYFM should be good today. The Qs obviously overbought on the 1 year daily. I think you could get SQQQ up into the 18s. I don't see a huge issue with that. I think you're going to see people obsessed with buying these momentum stocks on dips. And you're going to have pops and drops all the way as you stair step a little bit lower, I believe, on the QQQ. Once again, we have a longer term wedge pattern here developing, and I think we want to go touch this higher end in time, but you're going to need some washout here of the weak hands. We've seen it before, right? This volume isn't even as high as that. But the thing I didn't like about the last few days was going higher on declining volume, whereas we've had rallies on increasing volume. Red flag for me. And now we see the shakeout, and maybe it was the DoorDash deal that kind of, I don't know, rang the bell to the upside on a top in the greed component of the market. So you have kind of a wedge break here. You have a little bit of a lower tail kind of thing across here. So we'll have to see the intraday shape changes that I'm looking at, but you definitely had a little bit of a, not a head fake, but some candle tail break, short-term support that was broken in here, and that caused a massive drop, right? If you look at the tail there across here within that day, that was the break. So you go across here and you have a double touch there. And when we got back above there, that probably either created the shorts momentum players to buy into it, and they got a little bit of a head fake as we started to grind on lower volume red flag. Now you're probably going to go down and touch the 293-ish, 294 area. So I would not be touching the Qs until maybe 295. But once again, intraday, you're going to have buys and dips and bounces and all that. But I do think, believe it or not, the market probably wants to work into this top part of the macro channel there. So keep that in mind. But HYFM should be interesting today. Qs under pressure, small caps I've been talking about forever to buy those. The last few months at least, because the IWM I said looks like it's going to definitely want to break to new highs. And we were talking about this at 155 to buy it along the bottom channel here. And look at this move up here. The yellow is the momentum line, and the red is your macro channel, which we broke above them. What happens when we break above these lines? We tend to get whipsawed back because they're overextended. Another one that could pull back here. So you got to be a little bit patient. Intraday, you're going to have bounces and stuff like that. But I think as the energy starts to sort itself out between momentum traders and people that are sellers, and you're on the top area too of the channel on the MACD, you're going to probably end redlining on RSI. A lot of stuff says a little bit of a short-term top here in the market. Let it come down. So just keep that in mind. No buying and holding longer term here, guys.